Shalom, shalom to those watching here on the Ways of Israel, Los Caminos de Israel. And I want to talk on a very particular subject regarding love and hate. With everything that we're seeing in the world, we're seeing a lot of people demonstrating their actual hatred by denegating, denying, or putting down other people. And let me just start by saying the following. What took place this past weekend in Colorado is terrible. A gunman came into a nightclub of known LGBTQ group and began shooting. Horrible, horrible thing. What an incredible uh, wrong was done was taking the life of a human beings, and this should be condemned, no doubt about it. But at the same time, people are blaming those who basically are in the camp of moral indignation to the lifestyle that's being pushed and shoved in the face of many people against their will. In other words, that this entity LGBTQ have become very militant and in your face, and many of the traditional people who basically hold traditional values, conservative values, feel completely offended by the current wave of in your face type of agenda. And I want to bring this up because you would ask yourself, how can a person who loves God are completely intolerant to other people's choice that go right against to our Torah values or conduct that we all should behave and learn to submit ourselves and subjugate ourselves to? And this becomes a real actual issue because you have a lot of religious peoples who do not agree with the current agenda of even this administration that's pushing it down the throats of conservative couples. Well, we should be more tolerant, they say. We should be more acquiescence to their situation. Obviously, we live in a situation that there's a lot of stress and a lot of destruction of the family values taking place here. So it's not such an easy thing to just say, oh, just be tolerated, take it, and be quiet. We have all the other issues also that deals with, like one person put online, uh, I'm more tolerant towards um, a drag queen entertaining my kids than an evangelical right or a Bible thumper or someone basically standing on firm fundamental beliefs regarding morality. That I have a problem with. That type of statement tells you that it's not an issue of being more tolerable with someone who basically is of the opposite position. See, we have a specific command in Scripture, both Jews and non Jews alike, who embraces our Scripture as well. I'm going to read it to you. It's in Psalms 97 and verse 10, but I'm going to read a little bit before because we want to make it very clear it is God who's in charge of everything. And it says in Psalms 97, verse 9, Ki ata Adonai Eloyon, al kol haaretz me'od me'alet al kol ha'elohim. Achavti Adonai shenui ra shomer nafshot chasedidav mayad rashim yatzilem. For you, Lord, are supreme over all the earth. You are exalted high above all divine beings. O you who love the Lord, hate, hear this word, hate, shinui, ra, hate, feel disgusted by evil, hate evil. He guards the lives of his loyal ones, saving them from the hands of the who? Hatzilim, of the wicked, the Rashim, out of the hands of the Rashim, of evil ones, those who wish to perpetrate evil in your midst. So obviously, there is a constant war to love and hate. Those who basically love evil will hate what is good and what is God and what has everything to do with religious ideals. And you have so many people now in that camp. That basically they made a determination that if you're against my movement, we will hate you, we will vilify you, we will drag you down under and do everything we can to destroy you. These are individuals who love not God, that don't love God. These are people who love evil. Now, how do we define evil? Evil is just simply understood as all that which God is displeased with. In other words, the opposite of the commandments. So if it says don't steal and you steal, that's evil. If it says don't commit adultery and you're committing adultery, that's evil. If God says don't lie with a man like you do with a woman, that's evil. If God says these commandments we are to keep, and we do the opposite and we begin to embrace those conducts of lifestyle, that's evil. So there's so many people who have embraced evil, and those who basically have repented and have realized the errors of their way and have recorrected their lives and have committed their lives to God and said, from this day on, I'm going to let go of my evil ways and I'm going to embrace God and God alone. These are individuals who have come to love God, the Lord, and understands that his message is for their good, to restore them back to their normal health. There is a war, my friends, no doubt about it, between love and evil. And it depends on what side of that framework are you on. Are you a person that basically love to embrace everything that is evil? Then you're not on the camp for God. Let me give you some definition by what the rabbis tell us regarding this passage of Psalms. The lovers of God, after explaining the general providence through the campaign and nature in which he leads the whole world, turns his face to Israel and the righteous people and says, you are God's lover who hate evil. This, by the way, is the mission of the Jew. The mission of the Jew is not to embrace evil, is not to embrace those behaviors that have been today accepted by the normal culture. We are to hate it. We are to feel disgusted by it, at least if you're Jewish. How much more so that we should be the very example of that. And the righteous people say, you are God's lover who hate evil, because you are not like the rest of the people whose leadership is natural and care over them is general and not personal, because they are not adhere to the Lord, and therefore they will serve the armies of heaven as Mish, which the Lord your God has divided them among the nations, because you adhere to the Lord your God like a son placed under the care of his father who watches over them, with private supervision from the side of all of those affairs, from the side of love. That is why you love the Lord will be called upon you as lovers of God. And therefore you must hate evil. It's not easy to hate evil because we have so many different feelings, and perhaps we are somewhat complacent in our daily lives with evil around us. We've come to normalize the evil around us. We've normalized all types of behavior that's considered evil, including behaviors that's described as sodomite behaviors, because the love of God is the love of absolute good, and he is the absolute goodness and the root of good, because if you're not under the system only from the side that guards the soul of his followers from the hands of the wicked, that from the side of your soul, which is part of God. He is the obsession and love with you are pained as his son until he guards the soul of his followers, each and every soul separately, with personal supervision. And from the side of his guarding, he will save them from the hands of the wicked. Who are the wicked? These are like the unbelievers who do not understand the difference between good and evil. They've meshed them up together or reversed the roles. Not like the unbelievers whose supervision is general, as required by the system until it's not drawn. He will be saved. He will save them individually from the evil of those who choose. And this is that they are distinguished in a personal guarding, because a light is sown to righteousness, which is found to have divine light sown inside of them, which is the seed sown in their soul and ready to blossom and multiply if they water it and cultivate that light inside of them. Because he who guards his soul does its work, and the light sown will increase and make fruitful until there is sevenfold lights, as it's mentioned in Mishle. The hosts of righteousness are as mournful light, and great prophetic light will descend upon him. And in this his honest heart will be happy. Who will rejoice in the spiritual joy of light of God shining in their souls as he shines on their heads as a priest or a tzadikim? He will be happy. And thus the psalmist tells us that God is saying, to my lovers who love God, hate evil. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of their repercussion and remuneration. We have become afraid of such organizations as LGBTQ because so many of our friends are involved in that movement and they want to show tolerance. So the endeavor to try to have tolerance toward them is a good thing, but they have not done the same. They have not shown tolerance towards those who love God, to those who basically do not agree with their lifestyle of choice. And so God protects the souls of his followers and will rescue them from the hands of the wicked. My lovers, the reason is that God judges, and therefore you who love him hate every evil person and don't live from him, because we're not dependent upon the existence of the wicked, because God alone is the protector of his followers. Love God with all of your heart, with all of your mind, with all of your being, and hate evil, and hate those people who have embraced evil. Come apart, be separate from a world that is entrenching and calling people to live a life completely contrary to God's commandment. So yes, there is a complete contradiction of love and hate, but we, those who love God, are to hate evil. This is what the psalmist is saying. And there are many other passages I won't go into, but I think we need to understand that this is a message that should go out to every believer in God, whether he is or she is a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim. We need to appreciate, to love God with all of our existence, with all of our strength, and abhor and hate the lifestyles of those that are contrary to Torah values, Torah ways. And this is not a nice message necessarily, because what we're saying is that those who love God need to hate those type of lifestyles so that it would not become part of you. It would not be part of your daily life. And thus we can be able to protect our children from individuals who wish to do harm, even harm on levels that are so precise. This is what this complete country is doing right now. They are grooming the children in their education to bring them to the side to love evil instead of loving God. We do need to bring God back to the public arena, bring God back to the public scenario, school systems, education, so that people can learn to love God and begin to understand that this evil that has basically harmed our society are responsible for many of the great harms that are taking place right now in this world. From day one, when the Obama administration declared certain statements completely contrary to God's will, both biblical religious, this country has been cursed with a curse as a result of embracing and loving evil than loving God. And when the righteous gets back in control, may we learn to love God with all of our hearts and all of our mind. There is a war, no doubt about it. And it's a war between the spiritual culture of loving God and the evil culture of loving and embracing evil, all sorts of evil, including what we're seeing today in our media, in our culture, and in this nation. May God save us from the hands of those who are involved with doing great evil upon this nation. And may God raise up individuals who are righteous enough to be able to lead this country back to the ways of God, not only as a national revival for God, but also a spiritual awakening to spare this nation of its own destruction.